day. I'm Belinda Todd, and my co-host here is Rita Moore. I want you to take a look at these two beautiful young ladies. If you were to look at them, you probably think that they could be models, they could be whatever. They're charming, they're beautiful, but they are also experts on a very serious topic, and that is sex trafficking. Now, this is Ms. Hunt and Ms. Street. I met Ms. Hunt about a month ago, I believe, and was absolutely surprised. And we were at a setting in a church, and I could not believe the conversation she was having. And a lady, another woman who was a survivor of sex trafficking, because I thought that this was something that occurred in Europe, or certainly not in our backyard. And I was so surprised. Let me read a couple of things to you, some statistics. Human trafficking must involve some form of, or these are myths and misconceptions. Human trafficking must involve some sort of travel, transportation, or movement across state or national borders. Trafficked persons can only be foreign nationals or immigrants from other countries. I thought that. All victims of sex trafficking are female minors. There must be elements of physical restraint, physical force, or physical bondage when identifying a trafficking situation. Not only that, but this is an industry that makes a lot of money. Billions of dollars. I think I read that today. And I was just so shocked. So let's hear what our guests can tell us. I'm gonna, first of all, introduce Ms. Hunt, who is, she's a consultant and a trainer. She is founder of Diamonds in the Rough, an initiative focused on education and awareness about survivors of domestic sex trafficking. She facilitates events. She is available if someone out there in our viewing audience would like to have her come speak. And she serves on the board of Identifiable Me. Identifiable Me is an organization that was founded by Ms. Street. Ms. Street is a survivor. So we can get some first-hand information tonight about this subject. And you're not just you're a survivor, but you're absolutely precious woman. I'm looking at all the things you do, the boards you serve on. You're an educated woman. You started this organization, and you also tell your story to anyone who wants to hear of how you are a survivor of this.
Yeah, I do.
Tell us a little bit about what you share.
Well, the reason why I share is because, I was about maybe 5 years ago now. I was at a symposium, and I was kind of dragged out there by a friend of mine because for me, when I heard the word trafficking, in my mind, I wasn't a survivor of trafficking. I was in prostitution. That's how I saw it, and that's how I understood it, because prostitution is a crime. Well, it was one back then. Well, now it's defined differently under human trafficking, and we can go through that. And so now things are just really defined very well, and in such a way so that those who see themselves just like I did can have a voice and come out and say, this is what's going on with me. But here I am at this symposium, and I'm listening to a survivor tell her story. And as she was telling her story, there's just a really big side to any type of trauma where a lot of times we don't attach to, right? Or we don't want to become a part of it because of the pain, or we don't understand trauma, and so we kind of set ourselves, and I like to do this, we like to distance ourselves, our heart to another heart.
We can compartmentalize our mind. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so when I went to this symposium, I felt like people just didn't understand the mental component to what happens to someone who has gone through that experience. And so it was hard for the survivor to connect to the people who were receiving the information, because she herself was still going through healing. And at the moment, I honestly felt like, this is not what was happening, but I had the sense of, I feel like she's still being exploited. Like, here are organizations and, they're having her tell her story, but what about partnering with her and supporting her and making sure she's in a place of wholeness before putting her in front of a group, an audience, and her telling her story, because there's no connection. People are afraid, they don't know what to ask. It was just, I just didn't like what I was feeling. And so at that, I jumped up and I just walked out. I was so frustrated.
Oh.
And I'm walking out, I was in this church, and this lady comes, and she comes behind me. She's like following me. I'm heading out of there. And she goes, ma'am, wait. And so I turn around, I go, yes, really frustrated. And she says, what happened? Why are you leaving? And I said, you have her up there just telling her story like that, and it's just not okay, and the environment there, I feel like you're exploiting her, and whoever did this just didn't think about that. And she says, I'm the one who did this. And I'm so sorry. And then I said to her, it's the first time I ever identified as a trafficking victim.
Wow.
And I said, well, honestly, I myself am a survivor of human trafficking, and it just really bothered me to see that happen. And she said, well,
What a defining moment that must have been.
oh yeah, it was.
Let's back up.
Yeah.
We want to continue this story.
Okay, sorry.
I do want to back up because I want to define sex trafficking. Will you do that for us?
There's so many, the definition of sex trafficking, they do have a definitive definition that the Department of Justice and anyone that's in human sex trafficking or domestic sex trafficking uses. I gave it to you here because it's a really long definition.
Okay.
It's a very long definition.
It's a great one. It's
a
worthy
great
to,
definition.
yeah.
So I can, I'm going to give you the gist of it because the one that they have on the law books is a pretty long definition.
Okay.
But human trafficking is basically a form of modern day slavery.
Okay.
People profit from the control and exploitation of others. And that's pretty much what it is if you put it into a general term. Again, there is a more lengthy definition, and you can look that up, and it describes the coercion, the fraud, the control, the age barriers and ramification as to what they consider sex trafficking. And it goes into detail of what they consider that with respects to the law.
Okay.
So that is how that works.
Well, when I hear sex trafficking, I know that you gave your description in the beginning and what people think it is. And I'm one of those people because I always felt that this is something where, let's say someone goes out of the country and they're kidnapped and put out there and sold for sex.
So you've seen the movie Taken?
I didn't see the movie, but is that how it was?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, too. And also what I used to fly a lot, there was this, I don't know, a myth, I suppose. It could have really happened. But blonde flight attendants were always warned to not be out on streets after dark or by themselves because they could be kidnapped. And that's all I ever thought about for sex trafficking,
Okay, so that's not true? Are you saying that's not true?
No, we're not saying that
Oh,
isn't
okay,
true. Trafficking can show itself and it manifests itself in different forms.
Okay.
It can be through kidnapping, it can be through deceit, it can be through coercion, it can also be through someone that you know and they've gained your trust. So
Okay.
trafficking doesn't necessarily have one way that it can happen. There are 5, 6, 7, 8 different ways of what it can look like. I always say with Miss Street, there's no poster child or poster situation for what trafficking looks like.
So a young lady can be befriended by a young man and he talks her into doing something and she might think it's innocent and she
Yes.
ends up being
Yes.
involved in this
Yes.
sort of thing.
Yes.
And you're saying that this is happening quite a bit here in the United States?
Yes, yes. it
All
is.
right, let me ask this. If a woman is 35 years old,
Okay.
would she still fall under this category if she is forced into prostitution or forced labor? Or is she still under? I mean, it doesn't have to be for minors.
Right.
Right,
All right,
exactly.
all right.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Well, then let's hear your story. Then how did this happen to you?
Well, just exactly as you said, it was just a friend of a friend, and I ended up going on a blind date, and there was my pimp. But of course, I didn't know it was my pimp,
Oh, no.
But it was just a great time on this blind date, and we started dating. We dated for 4 months. And so it was after the 4 months that he let me know what he was doing, but really said it in a way very nonchalant, like this was something that was normal for him and his family. And so it was something that had been happening in their family for generations. So I thought that it was something I didn't know, because I lived in a very sheltered community. And so he convinced me because of my love for him. So when we talk about exploitation, we talk about vulnerabilities. He saw my vulnerabilities and he learned them the very first night we met. Because the very first night we met, I told him my entire life story. And so he listened very well. I had been sexually abused from the time I was 7 to 14, and that was a big thing for me. And so here he listened to that, and one of the things that he said to me that no one said to me was, "I'm sorry that happened to you."
Wow.
And so he captured my heart.
He gained your trust.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Does this not make you mad?
This is the kind of thing I think happens when you do online dating.
Oh,
you don't know who you're
wait a
talking to,
minute.
and you should. That's what I think happens. But okay,
This wasn't online
this wasn't
dating.
like that. Okay.
This was actually I had a best
Good
friend.
friend.
She was my best friend.
Okay.
I had a best friend it was her good friend's boyfriend. So there was a paper trail. It wasn't like, and as Ms. Hunt said earlier, a lot of times it happens through someone It's always, and not always, but most of the time, a lot of stories that we both hear, people who are victims of trafficking, they, become they come into that lifestyle through someone they knew.
How old were you at that time?
I was 18. I was just graduating high school.
Okay. Now, looking back on that experience, do you see red flags that maybe you didn't at the time understand or recognize?
Because of my colored lenses, at the time, there were no red flags.
Okay.
Of course, looking back, I would say my first real red flag where I stopped for a moment was when he asked me, when he told me that his family or that his mom was a madam. And I remember thinking, through this entire 4 months, I don't remember anything about that, so it made me question, his authenticity in our relationship. It made me think, okay, so he knows all about me, but I obviously hadn't paid attention. And so that was the very first thing that went through my mind. But at this time, we had already dated for 4 months, and we were moving on for future goals. And that's what he set it up to be. He said, we're about to move forward in our lives, and I want to start, I want to bring you in as a queen. And I'm thinking, this is a queen is someone who's, going to partner, and partner. And I'm going to wear a crown, possibly. And so, so how he set this up, there was no time for me to say, well, wait a minute, why didn't you tell me that? I wasn't that confident in myself to do that. But he knew that. Because he studied me for 4 months. Wow. So, and that's what the message that we want to put out to young people. One of my vulnerabilities was just the fact that I was naive, because I'm looking to be loved. I'm looking to love. And with all the pain in my past, it was a vulnerability for him to come and say, oh, I know that I can give her the affection and the acceptance and all of that.
Question. Did you grow up with a father active in your life?
I did have a father in the home. It was my stepfather. But
I mean, that
again,
doesn't have anything to do with it, but I was, I did wonder.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, Yes,
Right.
young ladies are looking for love in all the wrong places when they
Right.
don't have that father as they're
Yeah.
growing up.
Yeah, I was sexually abused by a male figure in my family. But I really think a lot of the isolation and rejection came from my mother's part because I wasn't embraced to say, you know, we'll take care of you.
Yes,
I'm sorry this happened to
yes.
you. And I mean, who knows what to do when you find out, you know, someone is sexually abused. A child was sexually abused all this time in your home. It's not an easy thing to deal with.
And many women go into total denial.
Absolutely.
They have to, and I think in order for them to survive, they have to, as we started out saying, compartmentalize this awful thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really, truly
Yeah.
is.
How do
just-
you deal with this? How do I, you know,
Yeah.
how do I, and if it's in your past, I mean, it's like a lot of this is generational,
Yes,
you know, and I mean, that's one of the things, you know, I do want to cover in our African American communities, you know. We talk about, you know, our men, we talk about the drugs, talk about jail, but we don't talk enough about our women, our girls who are being
Yes.
sexually
Yeah.
abused by family members, by neighbors, you know, for so that mom or aunt or grandma could get the rent paid. You know, it happens all the time. Family trafficking
Family trafficking.
happens so much in our Black communities, and that's something we do not talk about, but it's there.
See, you call it trafficking. I specifically remember one young lady when I was younger. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
And I specifically remember a lady who we knew was a prostitute, and she had a teenage daughter. She was evicted from one apartment, and they moved into another apartment. And I, with some other people from this organization I was in, went to visit her, and we knew without a doubt that she had her daughter doing the
Yes,
same thing
yeah.
that she was doing. Her daughter was not 18 yet, and we were trying to figure out a way to get her out of that home. But we didn't call that sex trafficking.
Right,
It was
exactly.
just plain prostitution.
Prostitution.
So why is it? Where does the term sex trafficking? How does it differ?
Right. So when you think of prostitution, why did you think that was prostitution?
Because her mother was making her do this for money.
Right. She was making her do this for money.
So making her makes it sex trafficking.
Right.
instead
So
of
she was
prostitution.
using her vulnerability, her age, or, you know, her living arrangements. She was making, you know, those were the vulnerabilities. So she was taking those things about her and she was exploiting them for her own good. You know, and that is a difference. And it's through coercion, it's through threats, it's through all kinds of.
Yeah.
Right.
Even, I mean, and later on we'll talk about this, but there's individual as well as corporate responsibility to not even buy products, or if you're a business, not to even do business with companies that have lax child labor laws.
Right, absolutely.
That's where we get these organizations like Fair, World Trade, and
Yeah, fair
Yes,
trade.
yes.
Fair Trade. Yes,
Yes.
But I want to go back to your story because I want to know. So the first time you did this, what did you feel? And if you know, and then I want to ask how you got out of that relationship.
Yeah. So, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot at all. What I like people to do, because let me tell you why I do this. My pimp asked me before I knew he was a pimp. He asked me. He said, "I want to know. I'm going to say a word to you, and when I say this word to you, I want you to tell me the first thing that pops into your mind." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." He says, "Madam." And I go, "Well, madam? I don't know. It's like stagecoaches and 1820s. You know, that's the first thing that popped into my mind. You know, you know, you have this image, and he says, "Okay, try again." And I go, "Oh, okay. Well, madam, a madam is an older woman who takes care of younger women. They sell their bodies for sex. She takes some of the money. She promises to protect them, and they live with her." And he goes, "Good job. You know, my mom is a madam." I'm like, wow. And the reason why I share that part of my story is because a lot of times we already know the answers to the questions that we ask. You know, so when I get asked questions like, "Well, you know, did he beat you?" You know, or "How was that for the first time?" You know, my thought is always, "What do you think it was like?"
Wow.
Frightening.
I would think, yes, very frightening.
It was very frightening. I was sick to my stomach. Absolutely. Yeah, I was
Well, now,
scared.
was this the truth about his mother?
I don't know. I never met his mom.
Oh, you never met her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was just
That was a
setup.
line. That was part of the process.
Now there was a brothel. He did have a queen already. You know, he already did have a set of girls, which he told me he did. And so, but the lie was that I was going to come in and just help him maintain his business.
You never thought to get out, or was it impossible? Was there something stopping you from being able to leave once you realized what was really going on?
Yeah, well, once I realized that I was in a dangerous situation, I was already broken. So it had already been about a year and a half into this lifestyle that, you know, when we talk about coercion, and we talk about deceit, and we talk about threats, you know, first started the coercion and the manipulation and the deceit,
Right.
you know, through all of this time, because he's my man. He's the man I fell in love with, you know, so all of this time I'm doing this for him, right? I'm doing this for our future. I'm not doing this for me. That's not what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking I'm putting out, I'm putting out, I'm putting out. And if you think about it, I was sexually abused for 7 years. I mean, so I'm doing what was already done to me, you know, so I can take this. So I'm thinking, you know, and so, you know, it was later where, you know, they say every pimp likes to break his hoe. You know, I don't know if
And
you've
it's-
ever heard
it's-
that,
no,
but
go ahead.
but it's
That's
something that
important.
you hear.
It's a part of the process.
It's a part of the process.
It's a as Miss Street put it, as the pimp breaks his hoe, it's also, if you put a term to it, the grooming process. And there's steps into it. And so they usually target the victim or the individual, then they gain their trust, then they feel a need love, food, shelter, whatever it is that they have pinpointed that you are missing and that you need to fill that void. After that, then it becomes the isolation. Then it becomes the threats and the dangerous things and the physical harm done to your body. And then that's the process. And so in their world and in street terms, it's called breaking your hoe. But the term is the grooming process.
Did he at some point get physical?
Absolutely.
Because I just finished looking at the OJ documentary, and I couldn't believe, it's so well done, couldn't believe this handsome, talented man who had it all had this dark side. And you know, whether you believe or not, I tend to believe he did it, but you know, most of the people who dealt with him would never have believed that he was beating his wife.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I remember thinking, you know, the entire time that I was there. So you're right on track with your thought, because through that time I'm thinking the same thing. I'm thinking, who is this guy? You know, because and so inside myself, I'm working really hard, trying to meet my quotas, trying to, you know, do everything that I need to do.
Quota.
Yeah.
You know, we see this kind of thing on television, and it's just not real. Do you know? And I don't want to say I'm Pollyanna, because I've had some things happen in my life. I'm not saying that, but this is just not something I've ever dealt with, because as I say, I look at you're beautiful, and we're about to end
Yeah,
this
we're down to
segment.
3 minutes.
Um,
Okay, go ahead.
And so my point is, I don't even know what my point is.
Well,
That-
I was saying you were right.
Yeah.
As far as the entire time, I'm thinking, where is this guy I was dating for 4 months? That's all I can think about.
Yes.
I need that person back, because I know he's not crazy, right? As you
Yeah.
were talking about.
Look, as we end, how can they get in touch with you? If there is an organization or someone out there who'd like to have you come talk to their young girls, tell us before we end this segment, and we'll come back and we can do it again.
Well, Miss Street can be reached at identifiableme.org, and I can be reached at diamondsintherough478@gmail.com. And a lot of the time, she and I collaborate, and so you can reach out to either one of us, and we will definitely give you a response
Okay, Diamonds in the Rough 478
at gmail.com.
at gmail.com, and
identifiableme.org.
Identifiableme.org.
All right.
Now, well, I do want to say we just don't talk to young audiences. We also share with social service providers,
Okay.
law
Law
enforcement.
crisis
Okay.
workers.
I think this is this it for, okay, we're about to round up this session, this half of our session. But yes, that's good. So there are other organizations who would be probably wanting to hear this message, this story.
Well, we
It's
still
very helpful.
have a few minutes left. Before we leave, I really want to know, how did you get out? Did someone come and rescue you? Did a family member realize something was wrong? How did you get out of this?
Those are great questions, and I think we should address them. But I did have an officer actually pay for me to go back home. So, well, I don't know how much time we have left.
So,
wow.
tell me where we are.
You
in the
can't do it
process.
in 1 minute?
No.
No.
Okay. And those of you that are local, we'll be back in about 3
Yes.
minutes, and we'll give her more time to go over that. Those of you who are watching on video, just know that you can go to
Me.org.
identifiableme.org.
And I tell my complete story.
Okay,
Yes.
identifiableme.
Yes, and
.org.
diamonds in the rough.
478 at gmail.com.
Yes.
Okay, well, it's just, this again, I'm just realizing that what I always thought was prostitution could very well have been, many of the cases I'm familiar with, could very well have been trafficking. In the back of my mind, I still see trafficking as taking you against your will and selling you. And I've never thought of a prostitute that way. I've thought of a prostitute as someone who wants to do what she's doing. And really,
Did you?
if you get paid for it, you want to do it. But okay, we'll be right back. We'll talk to you next week. We'll be right back. Oh, for those local, we'll be right back. But everybody else, we'll see you next week.
I